Like this. Hey, everybody, how's it going? You ready to rock and roll with some AI today? I know I am. uh, Ready to go in and dive in. We're going to talk about market research, and we're going to talk about a little bit about keyword research, and just a quick story about why we're doing this. I've been a web designer for over 25 years, a marketer for 15. And in December, I read this book that totally changed my life. It's called Time's Up. We talked about it in the last session on Monday. And so I've been on this journey to figure out how can I turn this thing into a subscription-based model where we're actually focused on the right people and I'm getting fulfillment and joy out of my life, because I'm getting sick and tired of designing amazing websites, handing them off, and then just fading into the ether. That's not a lot of fun. So this is just a continuation. Last week, we talked a lot about the journey to get up to this point. And now we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the title for today is Finding the Perfect Match Using Market and Keyword Research to Achieve Product Market Fit. Hopefully everybody's looking at the right screen, so I'll just keep going. And yes, just like Monday, we did create that title in ChatGPT. This was a little bit different. Last time I gave me 10 titles, I choose from one, but this was kind of cool because I told it exactly what I was doing and it gave me a title and told me why it was the perfect match. I don't know if it is or not, but we'll just keep moving along. So let's review. So far, we've generated the ideal client profile. We've done some product positioning. We've done some branding insights. We've done a customer value journey. And what I need you to understand, or what I have come to understand, is initially when you first fill those out, even if it's with your client, these are hypotheses. It's multiple hypotheses all rolled into a big hypothesis. I don't know why they made those sound exactly the same, but the advantage you're going to get today is the great marketers test these hypotheses before creating content assets. And I'll tell you exactly why great marketers do that in a minute. But our goal today is we're going to learn how to use AI tools to conduct research to validate those hypotheses. I like to think of it as we've been digging deep. Right? We've been digging deep down into the earth. Our goal is to build a skyscraper, and the taller the skyscraper, the further you have to dig. And this validation that we're about to do is pouring the concrete into the dig to build the foundation. And if you can build that foundation, you can build everything on top of it. If you do these sequences out of order, it's not going to work very great. So, important note, don't make this mistake. I generated a ton of content before testing my hypothesis, and I ended up wasting a lot of time, energy, and money. So one of the things I discovered through this is I can iterate and pivot my business extremely fast. And so because we generate the hypothesis, then we go do these tasks I'm about to show you where we create market research, we validate or we invalidate, and we make adjustments to our experiment. As marketers, we're great scientists, and we're trying to create these experiments to find where we're going to be able to make the most impact. And so I set up an experiment and I thought I was done. So I went and started creating all these content assets. And then shortly thereafter, I realized I still didn't really have product market fit because I didn't do these things I'm about to show you. After I get this product market fit, now it will be time for me to go and create assets, because the assets I will create are going to all be focused on that product market fit. Marc Andreessen is the one that came up with the term product market fit. It was in an article in 2007. Marc, I think he created the Netscape Navigator browser and sold it. And now he's a bigwig in Silicon Valley. And I really liked this article, or the way that he explains product market fit. I'm sharing this with you because I've been doing this a long time, and I really didn't understand this concept until just recently. So product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. You know when product market fit isn't happening. The customers aren't quite getting value out of the product, word of mouth isn't spreading, usage isn't growing that fast, press reviews are kind of blah, the sales cycle takes too long, a lot of deals never close. When you are in product market fit, the customers are buying the product just as fast as you can make it, or usage is growing just as fast as you can stand up more servers. Money is just piling up in your checking account. You're hiring sales and customer support staff. There's a difference between having product market fit and not having product market fit. When you got it right, the flow is going to go. When you're not, it's going to be a rough ride, right? So that is where the idea of product market fit came from, or the term, but the idea is not new. I love this quote from Eugene Schwartz. It's in this book right here. The first time I ever heard about this book, Ryan was talking about it on stage, and at that time, a first edition was selling on eBay for $1,000. And the funny thing about this book is this is Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. This is a reprint. There is a link, or there will be a link to this book. I think you can get it for $100 now. But on the very first page of this book is like the best value of the whole thing. Every line on you can't see it, but every line on this first page is gold. And the second line is this: the power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work comes from the market itself. And that blue part that I highlighted was basically saying copywriters try to generate desire inside of their market. And that's the wrong thing to do. You want to find a desire that already exists and harness that. That's what that whole first page is about. And so the idea of product market fit has been around for a long time. Eugene Schwartz understood that. And so before he goes and creates a lot of content or tags or advertising or any copywriting, he needs to understand the desire that lives inside the heart of the target audience. That's why we've done all this work all so far, so that we could go and validate this and then move forward. Okay, so the tools that we're using today, I'll be using ChatGPT Plus. The free level should work. Some notes on that. I did make some comments about, if you haven't bought ChatGPT Plus and you're thinking about running and buying it just because it has GPT-4, I wasn't really jazzed about it. I would say that's probably going to change in the next few weeks. If you can swing the ChatGPT Plus, I highly recommend it, because I actually logged out earlier and I could see that people are still being blocked from getting access to it. So I recommend it. I use Evernote to organize all the notes. We're going to talk about Score App. It's a nice little quiz application that I use to survey my people. We are using Riverside.fm again to Script Pro, and then Gap Scout. I'll show it to you. And then there's a couple other things I'm going to show you as well today, but those are the majority of the tools we're going to use. This is an important note. I think I learned this when I read Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and he's talking about you've got to get out of the office. You've got to get out there and talk to people. 2 years ago, I went further. I got in my car with my family and I drove across the country from one coast to the other. Well, from Oklahoma to Maine, and then from Oklahoma to San Diego. And I went to different events and I went to different things, and I had to get out there and talk to people and truly understand what's going on out there. And so I am an introvert who pretends to be an extrovert. It's okay. I can do this right now, but when this is over, I've got to go take a nap, right? So, but this type of stuff is going to require you to do that. It's going to require you to get out of your comfort zone, get out there and actually talk to real human beings. Doing this work along with AI will give you a huge advantage over everyone else in the marketplace who actually refuses to do that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the sequence for market research. And the first thing you want to do is ask people to buy. And I don't have any slides for this, but it's story time. I want to tell you a story. When I first started this process, I changed my business into the subscription-based model, and I started kind of putting together the packages that I wanted. Now, before this process, let me go back a little bit further. Before the pandemic, our agency, our web design agency, was focused on professional speakers and the movie industry. We did landing pages for Christian movies that were coming out, and a marketing agency would push congregations to go see those movies. The problem was that the studios were shifting, they were buying each other out. So that company actually lost their contracts right before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, all these professional speakers were not being able to travel, and they weren't used to the technology needs. So we went completely under. And then over the next couple of years, in order to survive, what we did was we partnered with marketing agencies and had them outsource to us to do websites for them, for their customers. That wasn't very fulfilling either, because when we were done, they were the ones handling all the marketing, and then we weren't part of the conversation any longer. And then we also had a handful of legacy clients and, just any kind of clients that we wanted to get. So the first thing I did was I went to agencies and I said, what would it look like if we were a Design Pickle, but for websites? And it's going to cost this much a month. And the first thing every one of them said was, it's too much. We'll never pay that much. And I said, you know what? I don't like working with agencies either. So I decided we're not going to do that anymore, because it's not very fulfilling, right? We're not going to white label for these agencies. So I went through and I kind of rearranged. I used these AI tools to go through and rebuild this foundation, and I rearranged them. And so then I took my new offering to my flagship clients, and I said, client, I want to charge you this much to do all these things. What do you say? And they were like, no, I'll never pay that much. And I was like, you and I are not on the same planet, because I was offering them a great deal. And so I took it to another customer who is in the learning and development industry. And I said, this is a package that I want to bring to market. What do you think about it? He was like, sign me up. I was like, ooh, interesting. Okay. Maybe I didn't charge enough. Right. And so then I thought, who's been my best customers over the last 25 years? It's always been people in the training and development, coaches, consultants, speakers, motivational speakers, keynote speakers. They've always been my best customers. Let me take this to someone else. And so I took it to another one of my old clients, and they're, oh man, sign me up. I was like, okay, I think I might be onto something here. And then as I start talking about this AI stuff and the way we're trying to get out there, now I've got people in that industry who are coming to me and asking me about it. And I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something here, right? So the first step is ask people to buy, because if they're not willing to buy, they're probably not going to be your market. But you find that market that's willing to buy, you've got a starting point. Okay, so now we're going to get into a live demonstration about creating surveys, because now that I kind of have an idea, we're going to do Design Pickle for their entire online presence, web design, marketing, social media, the whole 9 yards, right? We're going to become a full-blown agency for trainers, speakers, consultants, coaches, just like every other agency out there. But we're going to do it better because we actually know what we're doing. All right, so now it's time for me to go and create some surveys. And so I'm going to show you how we do that. One of the things I'm going to show you is in Score App, they came out with this list of prompts that you can actually go through and create everything you need to go in and set up a Score App quiz. And so I'm going to go into this ChatGPT, and I'm going to start popping in the prompts that we need in order to create this quiz. And this is how I'm going to come up with that thing. And I will be sharing this with you as well. All right, so we're going to describe the quiz. A quiz for training professionals to assess their marketing efforts. All right, so we'll let that get going. That's a nice title for that quiz. Now I'm going to ask it for a few more suggestions just so we can create a little bit more context. And now I'm going to have it give me 100-character description. These are all things that you go and put into Score App in order for you to create this whole thing. If you're not familiar with Score App is a system to where you can put in these questions, have them answer them. It becomes a lead magnet. And so what I do is you can either have them opt in at the beginning, or you can have them opt in at the end. If you have them opt in at the end, it's really cool because you can kind of see your score in the background kind of washed away, and it incentivizes them to want to see that score. So they're going to opt in, and then based on the results of that test, it's going to give them criteria. So we go like in 3 different criteria. You can either score high, score low, or score average. So that's what we're doing, is we're creating everything we need to put into that. So we got the 100-character description. Now I need a 100-word description. And let's go ahead and get 3 benefits for that. And then I've got a few options for this. I like to go with a 30-question yes or no quiz. And I want it to be split up into different categories because I want them to be able to see how they rank in these 3 different categories. I don't know what those are. We're going to see what they come up with. So now it's going to come up with those 30 questions. It's going to be in different categories. It sure is a lot in channels. That's great. Gonna let that keep going. And now, so what it does is based on the scores from this, it's going to reveal some content. So I want it to show me a copy, or the quiz results copy, if they don't do well on this quiz. And so now it's going to go in and generate that. And I can just copy and paste this right into that Score App, and it works really well. And I don't have to worry about, AI detection and any of that, because it's not on my website. It's in an app that these people are using. What I do is go in and make sure that it actually makes sense and there isn't anything crazy in there. So it gives me the copy for that. And now I want to generate a call to action. It's funny because I just put in these variables so that when I share it with you, you'll be able to change it, but it already kind of understood exactly what I wanted because it's in the same thread. You're probably wondering why I'm not using the GPT-4. That's because it's really slow. It will be here forever. All right, so now we're doing the copy for someone who's average, and there's a call to action for someone who's average. It might do it. There it goes. And so what you're doing is you're letting people assess themselves and determine whether they're, not very good, decent, or high. And then you can create copy and a call to action specifically to that person, regardless of where they are in the stage. All right. So that's all the copy I need to put in there. But now I want to be able to have it generate email stuff so that whenever what happens is when they complete it and they opt in, if they leave, they'll automatically get an email and let them know that they need to come and check their results. And so this is going to create the email for me that I'll send out. And then I need to create a marketing email that I can send out to my list and then let them know to come in and try this out. So I'm going to create that email here. And obviously, I want to promote this on LinkedIn because my biggest audience is on LinkedIn. And I've already connected with a ton of speakers and stuff over the last 17 years I've used LinkedIn. So I'm going to go ahead and have it create a LinkedIn post for me that I can then put out there. And, there's some people that still use Twitter. So I'm going to go ahead and have it create 5 tweets with hashtags that it's going to create so that I can put those out there and promote this quiz. So the first step was to go out there and see if people will buy. Okay, now I'm closer to where I need to be. So now let's go in and create these quiz assets and let's get some more people in my market to come in and validate or invalidate themselves. And all this information that I'm going to get from them when they complete that survey is data that I can use to hone in my product market fit. What do you think about that, Mark? Can you unmute yourself?
I love it. That'd be bad. No, this is fantastic. And James is talking, which makes everything that he's doing seem casual, but he just generated like something that would have taken a standard marketer days, like a
Yeah.
week or something. That was maybe 15 minutes. So
And what's great is I didn't even have to generate these prompts. Score App wants me to use Score App. So they create a whole thing here explaining it, and I will give you the link to this as well, so you can go in there and see that. You don't have to use Score App. There's some other quiz builders that are out there, but you can use this as a baseline for any kind of survey that you want to create to go out there and get more data. The name of the game in AI and in marketing in general is data. And so we've been collecting all this data, and now AI is actually able to do something with it. But now it's time for you to go and collect your own data. And so this data that we're going to generate from the survey is part of the data that we're going to create. I don't know if you guys understand that there's more than just GPT-3, right? There's all kinds of models, and then you can actually create data sets around that and everything. And so you can create your own data sets, and that's what we're going to end up doing with tools like this. We're going to go and create data that we can then teach an AI, and we don't have to keep doing this. It'll just know, right? And so the next step I'm going to tell you is how we're going to be able to really go and get data. So let's see, what's the next step? Oh, we're going to conduct interviews with principals. And by principals, I just mean like the business owner, head of marketing, whoever the product owner is of whatever the interview is that I want to conduct. We're going to conduct those interviews. And this is how we do it. So like here's Scott, and he was having trouble. We were trying, he's actually one of my older clients. We were in the middle of building a website, and I kept saying, hey man, I need this content. I need this content. Anybody ever asked that? It's like a nonstop thing, right? Always need the content. There's so many tools out there to try to help our customers get us content. This is the most effective way I figured out how to do it. And especially with speakers and trainers, because they love to talk. And so I invite them to a riverside.fm room, and I just ask them questions, and they have to extemporaneously be able to come up with those answers off the top of their head. I don't give them the questions ahead of time because they're going to try to get inside of their head and come up with the answer. But the best way to do it is to just ask them and make them rapid fire. So like in this particular instance, I went for about 30 minutes. That's about as long as I can get them to go before they start getting tired. And then after we were done, I was able to pull down the audio out of that, and I pull that into Descript, and the whole thing is transcribed for me. And you can see like how all of these filler words are underlined. I can remove all those. I can go and copy certain things from this, but all of this is the content that I need. And now I can take that content and put it into AI and generate the content he needs. I've got another client. We did the same thing. We did 20 facts, but we do these interviews. And what I'm trying to do now that we've validated our product market fit is find the right things, the right questions to ask to get them to go through and start seeing the value in what it is we can offer. And so I came across this tool of mine in Scalable. It's called the Core Desire Questionnaire. And so what I want to do, the first time I interview them, I want to ask them questions like this. What do you want for yourself? What do you want for the people around you? What do you aspire to be? What goals have you set for yourself? What are your values that you hold dear? What's your secret desire? What keeps you up at night? These are really personal questions. And this does a couple of different things for me. If they're willing to answer these questions for me, they're willing to get deeper with me and be able to do something for their business. The second thing is it helps me really understand where they're coming from. And not only that, but when I ask these questions in an interview and record them and then transcribe them, I can create data sets that I can then train an AI model around my product, or I'm sorry, around my market. That's insane. Like, can you imagine having a chat GPT that is just specifically for your market and for your business? It takes data. And so we're gonna do these interviews so that we can capture this data and then utilize that data to have AI analyze it. And as fast as GPT-4 is growing and their capabilities of being able to analyze all this data, we need to start collecting it now. In fact, we're probably behind compared to where we should have been. So that's an example of one worksheet that we would work through. Another one would be like a clarity compass. This is another tool from Scalable. The reason why I'm starting with these tools is because one thing that Scalable taught me, you ever hear people say you got to stop working in your business and start working on your business? Well, Roland Frazier wrecked me one day when he said, that's not enough. You've got to start working above your business, right? You got to work above your business, because so what I want is I want my customers to work above their business and let me work on their business in operations, in marketing, in technology. I want them to focus on the big picture. I want them to work above the business. So by starting with these kinds of things, I get their minds thinking about how to work above their business so that they'll be more likely to allow me to work on their business. So that's why I'm starting with those. You know, I promised to show you this tool and I just realized that I skipped over it. I'm going to go back a step for market research. I would do this before going and like asking people to buy or doing the interviews or the survey. And the reason I skipped over is because I completely forgot about it, because I just found out about it yesterday. And this link will be in the resources. This was on Ben's Bites. It's an email. Michelle shared it in the Slack channel. I highly recommend it. Every morning you're going to get a briefing on the top news, some cool ideas that are out there, and then a long list of tools. And every day there's new tools that are coming out. And what he does is he actually ends up putting all those tools into one big spreadsheet. There's like over 3,000 of these tools, but I found this one and I thought that it was really neat. So what I did is, because we had already gone through and created a sanitized version somewhere right here. Yeah. I created the sanitized version of my business in ChatGPT, right? So we talked about this before. And so I asked it to generate a description of my business in one paragraph. And so I let it sit there and build this out. Wow, I'm surprised it actually stopped at one paragraph, because usually it just keeps on going. All right. And then what I was able to do was pop it in here, and it actually gave me a little bit too much. I'm going to just take this out, hit next. And they added these 2 new steps in here since I did this yesterday, but it says, what's the target market? You can just hit this, AI will do it for you. All right. And then it asks about the unique value proposition. There we go. And it does this whole thing. So I'm not going to go to the next step. I'm just going to show you what ended up happening. So it starts like going through and showing me all this information, and it's locked because I didn't buy the report. Now I've bought the report. It will give you the very first one up here for free, which is great because it's the viability. You know, what's the viability of this? After I discovered that learning and development is where I want to go back to, when I would do those interviews, I would ask them questions that I wanted to ask them, but then I would sneak in some questions about their industry, what their experience was in the past. So this is the big fear that I have, where, you know, this recession is looming or whatever. And I know that during the last recession, I had to get creative with someone in the learning and development field, and we made a killing on it. We built a private social network for them, made like $500,000 by selling $49 memberships. And so I wanted to see if there was an opportunity like that. And what they were telling me is that normally in a recession, everybody dumps learning and development. They just dump the training, the corporate trainers and all that. But this time it's going to be different because they've got to be able to keep the people that they have. And so this is outdated data here. It says it's projected to reach 370 billion, but it's actually going to be like over 400 billion in the next couple of years. So it's telling me you're probably going in the right direction with business viability. But it also gives me a business overview. It gives me user pain points. It did all this in 5 minutes for $28. And it's $25 plus a $2 service fee, and I paid $1 to get it done really fast. And this is great because like it's breaking down the total addressable market, serviceable market. It's saying if I only got 1% market share, it would be worth $1 billion of this market. What are some ways to monetize it? Look at that, a subscription-based model. It's like I know something. I don't know. Potential risks. There's a lot of competition in the digital marketing industry, obviously, but why now? And so it goes through, and this thing has got everything: customer segmentation, who to hire, what to pay them, how much. This is just a big list of prompts that it just goes through and generates all that. So I thought that was really cool, but it even goes so far as to help you prepare for elevator pitch, pitch deck, pitch preparation, how to do your valuation, whether you need, like I thought this was interesting. You need a pre-seed of around 100 to 200,000, and you need a seed round of it's like laying everything out for you. So I thought that was pretty cool. What do you think about that, Mark?
I'm upset. So I went to school for business planning, and it's like, man, this would take me forever. Like
GQ still available, right? So
that's my fallback.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, and then what's cool is sometimes it might be wrong. You can actually fine tune the result, tell it what's wrong. It'll go back in there and adjust it and everything. So yeah, it's really crazy. Okay, let's see where we're at now. Analyze competitors. Hold on just a second. I got to turn the light off for this one. I have to be secret James. Okay, everybody. I need you to do something for me. I need you to not go tell everybody what I'm about to show you. Okay. This is a gray hat technique. It's perfectly legal. I'm going to show you some stuff. You guys want to see what I'm about to show you? We got the dark room going here. We got to be able to hide. All right, here we go. I don't know if I should show them this, Mark. Okay.
Do it. It'll be out to everybody in like a day anyways.
Yeah, it's going to be out there. It's fine. This is nothing new, but the only reason why I know how to do this is because I've been using WordPress for 15 years. I can see a website. I can tell you whether or not it's running WordPress. I can almost tell you what theme it's running. And because it's running WordPress, when I go look for my competitors, there's a 98% chance that they're running on WordPress. And because there's a 98% chance, I know I can do something like this. So this site that I found was an ad. And so that's why I got to get rid of this. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to check their sitemap. And most people don't know this, but every one of your blog posts are actually sitting in this sitemap. And there are a lot of links here. Hold on. Do I want this one? 588. Let's go to the next competitor. Here's another one. They are leading research-based branding marketing firm for professional services. Let's go check their sitemap. Oh, interesting. There's their sitemap. Great. There's all their blog posts. Here's another one. Rise Marketing Group. We're going to go check their sitemap. There's like two major SEO things. If you just put in sitemap.xml, basically WordPress is going to forward it to whatever that XML sitemap is, and then you're going to be able to see all of their blog posts. This one's only got 44, so we'll use that as our example. So I'm actually going to copy the entire page, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pop it into here, and I'm going to strip out some of this information. So we're going to delete these rows. We're going to delete these columns. We're going to remove this formatting. And now I'm going to grab all these links. These links, you'll notice they all have slugs at the end. That's what we call those. And any good marketing agency is going to use the keyword phrases that they want to get out of those slugs. And so when I do this, now I can pull it into ChatGPT, and I'm going to give it a prompt, which I will also share with you. I'm going to tell it to go through this sitemap, extract all the slugs, remove all the dashes, replace them with spaces, and output them into a bulleted list. And the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to give me relevant keyword phrases that are 3 keywords or more from this list. There's a couple things that you can do with this, and that's the reason why it's still in the market research. You want to understand your competitors, right? And so there's a couple things you can learn from this. One, these are the keywords that they want to rank for. And you can also kind of tell whether or not they're in product market fit. I ran this test a few times this morning just so I can make sure it was going to work the way I wanted it to. And a lot of times the agencies are putting out a bunch of fluff that talks about themselves. Instead of having the lens on their market, they have the lens on themselves. So I had to go find some heavy hitters that would actually do this right, so I could go and grab those. So what I can tell is they offer these services. I did one of these other ones earlier, and you can see how it's like a 7-figure speaking career, how to help you become a better speaker. What you should know about speaker bureaus. This is probably a better one for me because they're geared specifically beginning your speaking career. So I can grab that, strip all that out, put it in there, get those keywords, then have it analyze those keywords to generate a list of keywords for me so I know what my competitors are going after. Yeah.
Amazing. So much time I've spent months of my life.
How about hundreds and thousands of dollars on SEMrush and SpyFu? And, those are great tools, but this is a way that you could go in there and you can just be a little bit gray hat.
Well, you know what's funny is the thing I don't like about using the services is you have to use the service to understand it and find the tools. That throws a ton of information in you that you didn't really need.
Yeah, so much you have to learn, right?
Yeah.
So this is a nice hack. I actually saw this on a YouTube video this morning, and I was like, yes, I know exactly what that's going to do. Yeah. So that's a great way to go in there and grab you some keywords. I also...
James, just before we keep on going, do you mind answering a couple questions just because it'll
that would be great. Yeah, because we're about to go into the keyword. This is kind of a transition, but yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Danny says, does this work with Shopify stores as well, or only WordPress?
It probably does. It just depends on if you can find where the sitemap is, then you can pretty much grab it. When we first started this, Mark, remember we used to do link exchanges and stuff, or we would manually type out the sitemap. Web designers who are any good are going to make sure that sitemap is installed, because you can give that to Google Search Engine Console and it will know what to go and index. And so I guarantee you Shopify, if anybody happens to still use Joomla, Magento, any of these, they've got some sort of a mechanism in there to be able to go in there and create the sitemap. You just have to kind of figure out where that sitemap is. I just happen to know exactly where it is on every WordPress website. It's easy, but you can probably just put in / sitemap.xml on any website, and I'm sure there's something that will pop up there.
Or that's one use for Google. Just put in the domain and sitemap, and most of the time they'll at least have that.
And you could probably even just ask ChatGPT, where do I find the sitemaps in Shopify? It will probably do it.
It'll know.
Yeah.
All right. We also have, is the keyword research accurate considering ChatGPT's data set ended in 2021?
You know, I think that what this keywords stuff does, well, one, yes, because you can see that they've been ranking for these keyword phrases as late as 2023. So the fact that the keywords, that this information may have been after 2021 doesn't really matter, because you're feeding it the information, right? But as far as like its ranking and all that stuff, that is where you're going to have to go and kind of get one of those tools. Now, what you can do is you can use the Google Keyword Planner to pop these keywords in. I think it lets you do 10 keywords at a time, and it gives you some of those statistics that you would find with like a SpyFu or a SEMrush or something like that. Another thing I liked about that is that when you do it, it suggests a lot of other keywords that you can go along with it. And one test this morning I did, it gave me like 8,000 more keywords to go in there and check out. And then of course you can go filter them based on the criteria that you want for those keywords.
Nice. All right. Does it pull in facts from its prompts or get from AI GPT? I'm not sure about that one, John. Actually, well, need clarification on that. Here's another one from a previous note that you made. Can you use otter.ai in the same way as riverside.fm? It looks like it from what I looked at that.
I imagine you could. I've not used otter.ai. I think otter.ai takes notes, whereas what I'm doing with Riverside is getting that. Yeah, I mean, you could use otter.ai with Zoom to probably be able to get that same. You're going to get the recording regardless.
Yeah.
What I like about riverside.fm though is that it records in separate audio files, so I can just pull out that person's files and then be able to transcribe them alone, so that it doesn't get. But I also realized I needed to include my side of it in there so that it would know what the questions were that I was asking. So it works.
You could actually. You could do the settings in Zoom to separate the audio files as well.
Oh, cool. Nice. Well, I might need to look into that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Actually, I didn't figure it out. My podcast manager yelled at me. Let's see. Qualitative research is fantastic. Are we also using AI for quantified research too? Or are they blending the two together in some way?
Yeah, so I think the quantified research is the data that you would get from like Google Research Tool, or someone just mentioned like Ahrefs, or any of those tools that's going to give you any of that data. What I'm looking for initially is just to be able to meet my competitors where they're at. And then what this strategy or this tactic allows me to do is to be able to evaluate these competitors to determine whether or not they have product market fit, if they're focusing on the right things, and how well they do it. Plus, it's a really cool way for you to be able to go through and check some of this stuff, just to go in and see what they're saying, as opposed to having to go through their whole website.
Hold that. Last one, and then we'll keep on moving.
Cool.
Let's see. Renee says in the AI Q&A session, you mentioned you train the AI at the beginning. Does this training need to take place at the beginning of every new ChatGPT session, or is there cumulative learning happening between sessions?
Yeah. So what we do, what we talked about in the last session was how I go in, and you can see like all these things right here. These are all working deals where I'm like, I actually use ChatGPT to give me the names of some of the top marketing agencies for speakers and coaches. I don't have to put all that information in there. If I wanted to test some keyword strategy stuff, I can do that here. But I don't really need to do that until I'm ready to do the work. So what I do is I like work in these other little threads. And then when I'm ready to do the work, I'm going to go to my last sanitized version, which is where I already have everything already loaded up. And what I figured out I could do since the last session is I could just keep this as a sanitized version, and I'll just say, I'll just do this. And so I'll clean it up so that it's ready the next time I come in. I can just start doing my work there. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I know I've already used up a lot of memory in the previous part. And if I want to be able to work with all the information that's about my business, then I want to go ahead and do the next piece of work in here. But for some of the other stuff, I don't need to do that. In fact, when I start showing you the how I do my keyword research, I don't actually have to do it in here because the keyword research is just based off of the industry itself.
Yeah, this is actually a question for me. Can you duplicate previous chats?
No, I looked at that. There's a lot that is wanting in this whole system. Yeah, that would be a really cool thing to be able to duplicate it out. It'd be a really cool thing to put things into folders. I think that with GPT-4, when they have the bigger memory sets, I think we'll be able to start doing some of that. I don't know. Surely they're going to come out with some tools to do that, because there's a lot of these Google extensions that are out there to help you kind of enhance your ChatGPT experience. But I don't want to install 37 of them just to get it to do something I want it to do. So,
and they change it all the time anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's constantly changing. Like AI PRM is good, but I was glad that they decided they were going to put in another selector that would say these are validated by our company, certified, as opposed to just everybody, because you could use AI PRM and you could actually embed like ads into it, which is a cool idea, but it's irritating.
Yeah, my thing is it keeps changing. Actually, Quentin just asked about pasting links, and I tried pasting links today and it stopped working again.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get to work links at all.
I did yesterday, and then stopped today.
Yeah, it's like I watched quite a few GPT-4 reaction videos, and nobody was able to get links to work. Obviously, nobody was able to get images to work or anything like that. But I just have to tell you, Mark, like after I watched that developer live stream, I had to sit in front of my wife for like 3 hours and was like, we're not thinking big enough. I felt like I was in Truman Show and I got to the wall, right? And I realized that there was a whole other world out there. And so I was just sitting there with my wife yesterday, like this is going to be bigger than this. Like this,
was like the napkin? The
napkin thing, yes, because to me it was like, to me, I'm thinking, well, Figma has all these design systems of where you can quickly put together wireframes, and what if you could use an AI to generate based on the best, outputs, and then it applies the colors and adds the content, and all these things. And then I was like, no, I gotta think even bigger than that. And I was like, this thing's gonna be on every one of our devices. Have you ever watched Silicon Valley, the show on HBO?
No, everybody talks about it. I need to watch. Some of those guys just piss me off, and I'm just.
I would highly recommend to watch it, because we just watched it with my daughter, so that just because it was something fun to watch. But the things that they talk about, or the things that they try to invent with Pied Piper, is stuff that's going to like really happen. Like there's a part on there where he's like this billionaire who's a jerk asks him, if you could build anything, what would you build? He was like, a brand new internet. He's like, well, what would that look like? And he was like, decentralized, all this and everything. It would eliminate the need for servers. And he was like, how would that work? And he was like, because we would put a portion, because what Pied Piper is a compression play, right? And he was like, we could compress all the data on your phone to half, and then we can go and set a portion of our compute power on every mobile device in the world, or anyone who subscribes into it. And I was like, that's how we solve the compute problem in AI, because what if we could just connect our computer and allow the network to utilize a small portion of our compute power in all of our devices. So anyways, it got really big. And then that's when I made that comment that, like, that's why Microsoft invested in OpenAI, because the next Windows is not going to be Windows. It's going to be this.
Oh, well, just actually, this is the idea I had when all the AI stuff started coming out. And I said, if you're doing generative, content, then why shouldn't a website be generated based on the preferences of an individual user?
Of that user. Yeah. And at that moment,
no design.
Yeah. No design. Yeah. So yeah, like, I thought it was cool when I started seeing VR websites, but I was like, this is a whole new level. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. All right. Keep going. I know we're
Okay.
running out of time.
I wanted to show you guys this tool. I had mentioned it the other day. This is from Justin Ferryman. He had created LearnDash and sold it, and now he's working on this tool, and it's pretty neat. The concept is neat. I haven't seen it yet because he was going to give me access to it, but they lost their I don't know, something happened with their AI API. But what it does is it analyzes reviews, and it will also do a competitor comparison. And what it does, what it claims to be able to do, is to determine where the gaps are in the market so that you can go in and exploit those. So I thought that was pretty neat. I'd keep an eye out on this. This will be something really cool to do if, wait, is this thing? No, it's not. Okay, I thought maybe he had turned it on. This will be something really cool to do if you want to do market research in the near future. So, okay, what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So we did a little bit of, we did some keyword research here. I put together this prompt this morning to generate keyword category. Actually, I've been playing with this prompt. I shared, I retweeted on my Twitter this morning something I saw where this guy went through this process, and it was amazing. And so I took his process, and then I've been massaging this prompt to get the results that I wanted to do. So this one is: act as if you are an SEO expert doing keyword research on a new project. You are selling digital marketing services to, you can insert whatever industry you want there. Generate a list of, you can do however many categories you want. I tempered it down a little bit, of relevant keywords for attracting these types of customers through organic content. Include 5 relevant keyword phrases for each category. So I'm going to let that run. And there's a chance every time I've run this next prompt, I get different results every single time. So cross your fingers and let's see what it does. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have it cluster these into tables by category and include the stage of intent, whether it's top of funnel, middle of funnel, or bottom of funnel, and the expected ranking difficulty. And if you do it like this, it should put it into a table. And so what these become is a baseline foundation that you can work off of, right? Like, if you're getting ready to start generating some content, these are probably the things that you're going to want to go and get, right? And then you'll be able to know if it's top of funnel, this is going to be, I try to do it with customer value journey, but I couldn't get it to do everything. So the closest I could get it to do it was top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. So if it's top of funnel, this is where you're going to write stuff for awareness and for engagement. Middle of funnel is going to be like, your consideration phase where they're going to subscribe and maybe convert a little bit. And that bottom of funnel is just going to push them over the edge into your core offer. But that's, and it gives you some ideas on the ranking difficulty for it. That's not going to be very good quantitative information. But I did see where some people, when they use this method, they put these keywords in the Google keyword planner, and it was pretty close. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close. So these are just some ways that you can go in and create some of these keyword phrases and figure out, where they're at so you can create content around that. I know you guys have you guys have a SEO certification in DM, right?
We do. We're actually in the process of recreating it because things have changed since we made it back in like 2018.
Absolutely, it has. Yeah, one of the things I was playing with was Google Eat. Now, Eat is old enough for ChatGPT to understand. It's the new one, EEAT. Does anybody know what the extra E is? I forgot what it is, but basically it's expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. I forget what the new E is. Yes, experience. That's definitely it. And so what Google wants is for you to create content that will follow this, that's going to increase your experience, your expertise, your authoritativeness, and your trustworthiness. And so I kind of had a little conversation with it about how I can improve my EAT score. This is where Google was even saying that as long as you're bringing valuable content, they don't really care that it's written with AI, as long as you disclose that AI helped you write it. But as long as it follows these EAT ideas, then it's fair game, because it's going to increase your EAT score, which is going to increase your ability to do it. There's a template for EAT critique. Oh, that's pretty cool. And will it read a link that you put in there, Katerina? Cool. That's awesome. Just in case you are not on the up and up on SEO, I do have another resource I want to share with you. This is Search Engine Book. If anybody's ever done SEO, they should know about this book. When I first went into the industry, so I taught myself how to code. I went back to school to learn how to become a webmaster, and I went to go get a job at an agency so I could actually start building some websites professionally. And when I went there, they were like, sit down and read this book. And it was the Unfair Advantage book, winning the search engine wars. I want to say I read version 60, maybe 48 or 60, somewhere in 2006. They rewrite this book every single month. So anytime there's new changes, they go in and they update the book. My job was to sit down and read this book for 2 weeks. And this book is what changed me from just wanting to be a webmaster to understanding the relationship that marketing and websites actually have. Websites are a foundational asset. It's a digital asset that your business owns and can increase the valuation of your business. And I didn't really think anything like that. Most web designers, they just want to create a pretty design. But the things that were covered in this book helped me be able to understand how to really use that as that foundation for everything else that you do online. And it's got great information about it, about search engines and everything else that you need to know about it. And it's absolutely free. You don't have to pay anything for it. Anytime I tell anybody who's going to dive into SEO, they don't have a great resource like DM certifications, this is another great place that you can go and find that. Cool. So that's everything I have to offer right now. Why don't we figure out how to stop sharing my screen?
You have to find the stupid bar that's hidden.
Yeah, it like moves around and everything. So
I hate that.
Yeah.
All right. We have a question.
Hey, everybody's here again. Now I can see everybody again. Hello.
Smiling faces. All right. Actually, this is back to the sitemap question. If they have like 1,000 links of URLs in their sitemap, should you just take it chunk by chunk, or is there a way to clear out the links that aren't blog titles?
Yeah, so I knew not to grab that 1,000 link one because I tried to do that earlier, and I did it with GPT-4. And even though it's supposed to have bigger memory, you do not have that memory in ChatGPT Plus. So as soon as I popped it in there, the first thing it said was, there's too much information here. It was at 8,000 credits or 8,000 tokens. So it was already twice as big as what it would normally take. So yeah, I went down and cut it down into smaller chunks.
Fantastic. All right. And then John, do you just want to unmute and ask the question? I'm still a little confused with the wording. John Brack. Michelle, do you see John?
I do. I asked him to unmute, so we're just
Oh, okay.
here you go.
There we go.
Yeah, my question goes back to that, what was it called? It was way back earlier in his talk when he was talking about that tool. It was called, I think I put it when you inquired what I was talking about, I put a note in there. What the heck was it? What's
It's a Rescore app.
Oh,
Oh,
the
the
score app,
scoreapp.com.
Yes.
scoreapp.com.
Yeah. And does it create the prompts? But then my real question was, is it pulling the prompt, the responses to the prompts from GPT, or does it spit this out itself?
Okay, so two different things going on here. Well, yes and no. Here's the reason why. I got that list of prompts from Score App because they wanted people to be able to actually use their deal. So I used ChatGPT. I put those prompts into ChatGPT, had it created, and then what I do is I can copy it out of ChatGPT and put it into their application. So those prompts that are there are all the areas where I can go put content into Score App. And so it gives me everything I need to be able to set that up. It's in Score App's best interest for you to be able to do that, because then you'll actually use their service, and it's not cheap. It's about $100 a month. But if you use it right, the data that you get from it, and I've not found another tool that does this as well. It will generate you a lot more income than just a $100 thing. Now, I say that to also say that once they realized people started using this, I guarantee you they saw a huge uptick in their usage. So now they are integrating ChatGPT into their system to automatically create that stuff. So if you were to go sign up for Score App, and once they release that feature, you won't actually have to use ChatGPT. You'll just be able to create it right there in the app itself.
So it's going to pull it from ChatGPT automatically.
Yes, it'll use the API. So it'll be a pipe.
Yeah.
It'll use a pipe that goes right into their app and then be able to generate it. So you don't have to go into ChatGPT and create all this.
Perfect. Well, yeah, it makes that a lot more valuable. In itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what I thought. When I got the email, I was like, oh, wow, I might actually use this program.
Suddenly $100 a month seems like a nothing burger, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. James, real quick, on Monday, you mentioned a tool. I wrote down Trudio.ai, and it was for uploading the files to review.
Yeah, it was, let me find my links here.
It's not Trudio.ai.
Trudo.ai.
Ah,
Yeah.
added an I.
And on Monday, it actually went out on Product Hunt. So a lot of people,
So
here,
now we'll load.
I'll put it in the chat here. Yeah,
There you
and
go,
and since then I found another one, drinkwater.ai. So this is really cool to me, because now I'm starting to see everybody else feels the same way I do. So now these developers who probably just got laid off from all these big tech companies are going and building all these cool new tools. And what I'm doing is I'm generating data, and I'm watching all these tools be built, and we're going to build our own software that will automate this entire process. And it will actually automate the interviews and the whole thing. So someone, just as easy as that dime a dozen is, you'll be able to go through the entire process and have your entire business ready to go for one low price. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what will happen with a bunch of these apps, and this is why I try to stay to like the bigger ones, just because there'll be consolidation, and there'll probably be a bunch of server issues, because as soon as somebody gets popular and a million people try to download,
they'll never be able to afford it. That's why,
like, break.
When I went to that conference and I saw everything that Jasper was doing, who they were partnered with, and how they were doing things, I told my buddy, I said, I'm pushing all my chips into Jasper. And just to clarify, I use ChatGPT to create, if I were to teach the class next week, I'd show you how I go in and I create these outlines that are geared towards the workflows in Jasper. And I use those to go and build in Jasper to do, because their their system is fine-tuned to create content. ChatGPT is not fine-tuned for that. It's fine-tuned for ideas and generating ideas fast. And then you can use that to go use other tools and get the finished products from.
Yeah. I will say that ChatGPT, it's kind of like why I use Notepad still. It's
Yes.
simple, and it's
Yes.
not modifying the information, because I actually ran the customer avatar prompt list that I made in both Jasper and then I ran ChatGPT, and Jasper did some funny things. Like, it didn't follow my instructions as well, and it would make up a lot more data. Then I was like, where the heck did that come from? Like, I didn't say that at all. And so it's probably inputting business stuff. You know,
Yeah.
it was still awesome content. It was just not referencing the stuff that I told it to as much.
Yeah.
And you
I'm
can put links.
I'm excited
Oh,
to play with Claude finally, because it'll be a competitor to ChatGPT, and it's from the people who founded Claude were part of OpenAI, but they went, and Atiba does a really good job of explaining why theirs is better. And I couldn't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but it'll be interesting to be able to compare apples to apples and see what the results are coming out. And I'm sure there'll be a number of tools like that will come out.
Yeah, and I'm interested in the let me see, not so much on Claude, but it's always
Llama?
interesting to see. Llama, yeah, that might have been that one. I'm trying to
Yeah.
think there's another one that I was like, it's supposed to be comparable. But then I always default to ChatGPT because now it's the one that I've used more than any of them by a
Yeah.
huge margin. And then Jasper's probably coming up second.
Yeah.
And they are, I actually I went to the Jasper headquarters last week and spoke with Austin and Chris, and they were talking all about the branding, brand voice that they're trying to incorporate, and they're trying to structure it around what agencies want. So if anybody has anything that you want Jasper to do, I'm not saying they'll do it, but I could at least like poke them. Be like,
Yeah,
hey.
when I was there, I was telling them, I was like, I like these workflows, but I was giving them like feedback, like as a user, I would prefer to see these types of things. Like in some of those workflows, I haven't played with them since then, but you couldn't go back and edit something. You couldn't go back a step. You could only go forward. So hopefully they implement some of those.
They did do the chat, the beta chat, and that's pretty useful. And at this point, it's kind of how we're all used to interfacing with this type of tool. So
Right.
they're moving, and they have some bucks to spend. So
Yep.
Let's see. You could use the Jasper Chrome extension. Oh, I haven't actually tried that. That's a good note. Stephanie's asking, what was that? Claude? It's Claude.
Yeah. It's from a company. So like how there's OpenAI, there's a company called Anthropic, and their chat system was called Claude, CLAUDE. And it's been on wait lists all this time, but now they're releasing it. You can play with it in Poe.ai, which is a mobile app, and you can play with it on desktop as well. They let you do I think it's like one a month of Claude Plus and GPT-4, or they let you subscribe to Poe for like $20 a month.
Okay. Yeah, because if you go to the actual website, anthropic.com, it allows you to request access.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a pain. So I think that answers your question. Let's see.
Wow.
Norm asks, tried going to a bunch of competitors and tried to use sitemap.xml, and I don't see the blog article URLs, just showing the sitemaps, but no articles. I tried this on 4 sites.
Yeah, if you do it on WordPress, if you put in that sitemap.xml, what that first link is, let me share my screen real quick and I'll show you again. A lot of times you get like post sitemap, page sitemap, post tag sitemap. Wow, if they have post tag sitemap. Okay, they don't have a lot of them. If they ever have post tags and it's big, those are basically like the actual keyword phrases that they want to be on there. See, like in this one, this is a sitemap for them. What these are all their custom post types that they have. and they have so many posts in their post sitemap. They actually have a second one. I checked Digital Marketers earlier, and you guys are on a
Oh,
second
God.
one as well. Yeah, so that's how many there are in there. So that, and what's cool too is it'll tell you how many images are on there too. I thought that was kind of neat. Kind of gives you an idea of how long that post is going to be. Looks like they have a custom post type for people, library, news. What's scary is sometimes things that you don't want the public to see are going to be in the sitemap, and so you can technically kind of get in there and see some things you probably weren't supposed to. But tags in WordPress, you can apply tags to a post. A lot of people don't use them, but the ones that do, they do them with keywords. But yeah, it's the post sitemap you want to go into, and then that's where you find all the blog posts. But again, not every site's going to have that set up like that. But yeah,
That's-
I like,
That's
yeah,
actually a good suggestion from Kevin using builtwith.com.
absolutely.
You use
Yeah.
a ton of stuff in builtwith.
Yeah, you can see I've got that right there.
Yep.
But yeah,
Achievement.
after you've built 3,000 WordPress websites, you can pretty much spot them from a mile away.
Yeah. Yeah, the builder. And
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I can tell if it's Divi, or I can't tell if it's Elementor or Beaver Builder, but I can usually tell if it's Divi.
Oh, could you tell mine? I use a little known builder. That was where I built all my websites. I tried to get Digital Marketer onto it, but they're like, no.
What builder?
It's called UTheme. It's YOO theme, and it's out of Germany. And they actually I started with Joomla, so I was a Joomla builder originally, and then I switched to WordPress because nobody knows how to use Joomla. I thought it was awesome, but it's database driven, which is even more complicated to understand than anything else. But it's a very elegant system. It's amazing. Let's
Yeah,
see. Mark. Okay.
I was going to say, we use Beaver Builder, and we switched to Beaver Builder because before we did that, I used to be one of those guys that went and bought like every theme forest theme, like whatever the biggest
Yeah.
theme forest theme was. I'd buy that. And then I realized I don't want to keep buying licenses for every customer. And so we switched to these builders. In the WordPress world, like I know they're pushing us for Gutenberg and blocks and all these things. I'm just not into it. So
No, I realized that every time you download a different theme, you have to like relearn how they built the theme, and then it slows down production time. And
exactly. Yeah. And I outsourced to the Philippines, so they would have to sit there and do it. Well, now what we did was we just used Beaver Builder. I've had the same team running it for 5 years. They can build the one can design to all the modules. He already knows all the modules that are there. And the developer, we can pretty much turn a website in like 4 hours now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Mark asks, interesting, kind of like how BuzzSumo or Untapped has specialized reports based on their unique data, content marketing mixed with beer. That could be better. Mark, you want to I think was this related to the last question, maybe? Mark.
Which Mark is that? We have 3.
Schlesinger. Schlesinger.
There you go.
It's obviously Mark DeGrasse.
Yeah, Mark, I was responding to your response where you were answering the question how this was going to have an effect on content marketing in general. And you talked about the need for original kind of content, licensed content, and super unique content. And I thought of BuzzSumo and Untapped as kind of examples of what that could look like. But in general, I'm just like, this feels like it's going to really, really disrupt content marketing in general. We're obviously using it to create more content for our clients, but it feels like we have to be asking bigger questions. And I might be wrong on that, but that's where my mind is going as we explore this topic.
No, you're 100% right, because
You're right.
it's,
Yeah.
if anybody, I mean, you're seeing what we're doing during sessions, like we're generating content that would have taken somebody days, weeks, or months to generate in an hour. So what you have to think about is if everybody can do this, everybody could make a baseline content using ChatGPT or whatever, then you have to start thinking like, well, one, do search engines or ChatGPT or Bing or Google, do they have to send traffic anywhere? because they could just generate the answer for you using, I picture they'll generate like a custom page that'll look like an article. They'll be developed specifically for the user based on their browsing habits. So this is generative, design and content creation. So why would anybody make content moving forward? And the reason is because the only way your company is going to get traffic is by making content, and then possibly restricting it from being accessed by AI so that you could drive your own AI or just your own brand using content that can only be found on your website. And so it actually becomes much more important to do that. And then if you have your own AI that's only accessing the data from your client, then it's generating answers that they would answer themselves. So I call it a organizational knowledge interface, an OKI, which would be something that every brand is going to have. Otherwise, you're just going to have generic answers. Actually, people just have a standardized, OKI that'll generate answers based on standard parameters for your company.
I live in Oklahoma, right?
Okay.
Every time you say that, it hurts my heart.
I was trying to actually, I don't even know if I came up with that. I might have had ChatGPT.
That's hilarious. Yeah. No, Mark, I think you're totally right. Like every day, every time something new comes out, I'm like, I've got to think bigger. And so the way that I think bigger and the way that I future cast is I look into my history. I look back further. And this is something that I feel like I learned from Ryan, which is that, yes, these are the latest, greatest marketing things. But if you go back and read the old books, like this Breakthrough Marketing, like Wizard of Ads, like Ogilvy on Advertising, all these old books, you start realizing that these concepts have remained the same forever. And so I'm going to teach you guys, we've got about a few minutes left. Mark, would it be okay if I told a story about the biggest business lesson I learned and how I learned it from Ancestry.com?
Huh.
Ancestry.com of all places, right? So I did the Ancestry.com. I started going through and looking at my family history. And I found out that one half of my family is from England and the other half is from Spain. Okay. And so the Spanish side came over with Cortez and came, and they burned their ships and they defeated the Mayans and they started making their way all the way up the coast of California. One of my ancestors was part of all that, and he got into a little bit of trouble. And so they said, listen, we can either put you to death or we can send you on this mission with the monks. And dude was like, bet, I'm going on the mission with the monks. So he goes up there and the family ends up near Silicon Valley. This is like in the 1800s. What happened in the San Francisco, California area in the mid 1800s? It was the gold rush. And so everybody and their dog was coming to California and they were trying to stake a claim and they were trying to go get gold. Meanwhile, my Spanish family was working at this quicksilver mine. Now, this is where it gets kind of cool too, is the other part of my family is from England and they're from Cornwall. And I don't know if you know anything about Cornish people, but they've been mining for over 1,000 years. I want to say 1,300 years. They were so influential with their mining of tin and copper that they actually single-handedly brought the Bronze Age to the world because they were found to be sending these materials around the Mediterranean. Well, then the potato famine happened, all this stuff happened, and they started leaving Cornwall, but they were experienced miners. And so as soon as my ancestors got to this mine, this quicksilver mine, they hired them right there on the spot. But I wondered, what was the deal with this quicksilver mine? Well, at the time, the only other mine for quicksilver, which is mercury, was in Spain. And this was the second only quicksilver mine that was in the world. And how does quicksilver play a part into the gold rush? Well, when these people would go and they would extract gold out of the earth, they would submerge it into mercury and turn the heat up. And what that mercury would do was melt the gold and pull the gold out of all the rocks and sediment. And then they would have the gold and mercury mix, and they would crank up the heat even more, and the mercury evaporates and it leaves all the gold. This is the lesson that I learned. The riches are not in the gold mine. The riches are in the quicksilver mine. Without the quicksilver mine, the gold miners would have nothing. So when you look at what we're doing with this AI that's coming out there, I want you to have the mindset of a blue ocean strategy. If you have not read Blue Ocean or know anything about Blue Ocean, you need to go look at Blue Ocean strategy, because this is what people like Mark and I are doing. We're watching what everybody else is going, and we're going in the other direction, because there's a quicksilver mine out there somewhere. Everybody else can go run for the gold mines, but you'll need one quicksilver mine to take care of everybody else. Jasper is a quicksilver mine. You want to find those quicksilver mines. So that's the biggest lesson that I learned. Funny thing is, when I went to San Francisco, I met a guy. We both pulled up to the conference in Uber black SUVs. When we pulled in, we looked like we were a presidential, showing up, and we get out of the car and we look at each other like, hey, nice ride. So he asked me the question that everybody asks in Silicon Valley: are you from the Bay Area? And I say, well, no, but my family actually built Silicon Valley. They had been there since the 1600s and had worked the quicksilver mine. And I started to explain to him what a quicksilver mine was. And lo and behold, this guy actually owned gold mines in Africa. So he absolutely knew exactly what it was then. So thanks for letting me share that.
No, that was fantastic. I think that's an excellent note to end on too, because it is, it's funny because I go through that too. Like, man, I thought I was thinking far in the future, and I am still having to modify everything. And that was the book I was trying to come out with. That's why I stopped it, because I'm like, it just keeps on changing. So
Yeah.
adapt.
Publish it, make a new one, do like
I am-
search
well.
engine book and put out a new version every month. It'll be great.
That's actually, I think I'm going to do that, because if you look at my blog, I'm still publishing all the articles, but I just did the licensing because Stephanie, you were asking how do you protect your content, and I think what's going to happen is there'll be an integration with NFTs that will make it trackable anywhere, and then everybody who wants to protect their content from AI will have to license your content, which was impossible until now. We're going to replace all lawyers with AI, and now you'll be able to do it super fast.
Don't let Sin hear that.
Except for Sin. Sin's too valuable to replace. You can't get rid of Sin. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, James. Last two sessions have been fantastic. Just so many tools,
My pleasure.
so many killer tips, and and more to come, I'm sure. So everybody follow James and get ready for the next session, where Julia is going to come blow your mind even more with even more stuff.
Yes, we're going to release the Kraken.
Yes, but it's very, and it might seem like, oh my gosh, all this new stuff's coming out, but it is very important that everybody sees the progression, just like James's historical story. Like, there's lessons to be learned, seeing the development of all these things, and we'll be talking about this in 10 years when you're like, oh yeah, I went to this boot camp when AI started, and then now who knows where we are. But this has been fantastic, James, and we do have other resources with James. So we have the podcast, we'll probably have some articles, of course, and things like that, so you can look for him at digitalmarketer.com as well. All right. So thank you, everyone, for attending. We'll go ahead and we'll get the resources from James. Actually, it's mainly the scalable resources. We'll just tweak them a little bit for our purposes for Digital Marketer, and we'll get those up on the course page very soon, along with the recording of this session. And tune in next time. So Monday, 2:30 Central. You'll see Julia McCoy talking long form content.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.